Ever wondered how life was during the medieval era? The medieval era, also known as the Middle Ages, spanned from the 5th to the 15th century, a period of radical transformation and intrigue. This era served as a bridge, transitioning the world from the fall of the mighty Roman Empire to the dawn of the Renaissance, a time of rebirth and rediscovery. The medieval era was a time of profound change in various aspects of life. Society evolved, with feudalism taking root and shaping the social structure. Culturally, the era was a melting pot of Gothic, Romanesque, and Byzantine influences, each leaving indelible marks on art, architecture, and literature. Politically, it was an era of power struggles and wars, with the rise of influential orders like the Knights Templar. It was also a time of great calamity, with the Black Death sweeping across continents, leaving a lasting impact. So buckle up as we journey back in time to the medieval era. Picture this: a group of knights with a divine mission, the Knights Templar. Emerging in the early 12th century, they were a unique fusion of warrior and monk. Their mission was as much spiritual as it was military. They pledged their lives to protect Christian pilgrims journeying to the Holy Land, aiming to ensure their safe passage through hostile territories. Their origins were humble, starting with only 9 knights, but their influence and wealth quickly grew. The Templars established a network of fortifications across the Holy Land and Europe. They were the spearhead of the Christian military effort during the Crusades, and their distinctive white mantles, emblazoned with a red cross, became an emblem of hope for many and fear for their enemies. But the Templars were not just warriors. They were also pioneers in finance. They developed an innovative system that allowed pilgrims to travel without carrying large amounts of gold and silver. This early form of banking contributed to their immense wealth, which eventually led to envy and suspicion. Their downfall was as dramatic as their rise. In the early 14th century, the Templars fell out of favor. Accusations of heresy, greed, and corruption were leveled against them, largely driven by King Philip IV of France, who was deeply indebted to the order. In a swift and brutal purge, many Templars were arrested, tortured into giving false confessions, and burned at the stake. Despite their demise, the Templars have left an indelible mark on history. Their legacy is riddled with myth and mystery, from tales of hidden treasures to the Holy Grail. Their story has been the fodder for countless books, films, and conspiracy theories, with each new generation adding more layers to the Templar legend. Such were the Knights Templar, a religious military order cloaked in mystery and legend. Imagine a society where your status determines everything. Welcome to the feudal system. It was the social and economic structure that prevailed in the medieval era, a time where one's place in the hierarchy dictated their life. At the pinnacle of this system sat the king, the supreme ruler who owned all the land. He was the one who granted pieces of his land, known as fiefs, to his loyal nobles or lords. These nobles pledged their fealty to the king, promising to provide him with military service whenever required. Just below the nobles were the knights, the brave warriors who swore allegiance to their lords. In return for their loyalty and protection, knights were given a portion of the lord's land to govern. They were the ones who brought the king's justice to the countryside, maintained order, and protected the kingdom from external threats. At the bottom of this pyramid were the peasants, the backbone of the feudal society. They labored on the land, growing crops and raising livestock. Despite their hard work, they had no rights to the land they tilled. They were bound to it, and in return for their labor, they were allowed to live on it and were protected by their lord. The feudal system had a profound impact on society. It promoted a rigid class system where upward mobility was nearly impossible. It also fostered a culture of loyalty and obligation, tying individuals to their land and their lords through a complex network of duties and responsibilities. However, this system was not without its flaws. With power heavily concentrated at the top, it was ripe for abuse. This, coupled with changing economic conditions and increasing centralization of power, led to its eventual decline. The feudal system was a complex hierarchical structure that dominated the medieval era. It played a critical role in shaping the social, political, and economic fabric of the time. Its influence can still be seen today in our modern society, with remnants of its principles evident in our systems of governance and social hierarchy. The feudal system, a hierarchical structure that dominated the medieval era. Now think about the worst pandemic in history, the Black Death. In the middle of the 14th century, a silent, unseen enemy arrived on European shores. Originating from the east, likely China, this deadly foe was the bacterium Yersinia pestis, the cause of the Black Death. It traveled along the Silk Road, hitching a ride with merchants and their flea-infested rats. When the Black Death made landfall in Europe around 1347, it spread like wildfire. Within just 5 years, it had consumed almost 60% of Europe's population. The speed and scale of this devastation were unprecedented, and the medieval world was left reeling in its wake. But the Black Death was more than just a health crisis. It was a social and cultural cataclysm. Entire villages were wiped out, leaving fields fallow and livestock untended. Trade routes closed down, economies crumbled, and a pall of fear and suspicion fell over society. The church, hitherto an unshakable pillar of medieval life, found its authority questioned. Many saw the plague as divine punishment, a wrathful God's response to human sin. Yet despite fervent prayers and penance, the death toll continued to rise. This led many to question their faith, sowing seeds of doubt that would later blossom into the Reformation. Yet from this bleak landscape of death and despair, new shoots of change began to emerge. The drastic reduction in population led to a labor shortage, which in turn led to higher wages and improved living standards for the working classes. The old feudal system began to crumble, paving the way for new social structures and economic systems. The Black Death was a catalyst for change, forcing society to adapt and evolve in the face of an unimaginable crisis. Its impact resonates even today as we navigate our own pandemics and societal shifts. The history of the Black Death is a testament to human resilience, a reminder that even in our darkest hours, change and growth are possible. The Black Death, a devastating plague that forever changed the course of the medieval world. The medieval era, a time of knights, feudalism, and plague. A period where valiant Knights Templar protected Christian pilgrims, embodying the spirit of chivalry and devotion. Yet, beneath the shining armor, they held immense power, wealth, and influence that would eventually lead to their downfall. This era also introduced us to the feudal system, a hierarchical structure that shaped society. Lords, vassals, and serfs, all bound by obligations and duties, creating a complex web of relationships that defined medieval life. And who can forget the Black Death? A pandemic that decimated the population, causing profound societal and economic changes. Its impact echoed through centuries, forever altering the course of history. As we step back into our time, we carry with us lessons and stories from the medieval era, a period that shaped the world as we know it today. From the noble knights to the devastating plague, the echoes of the medieval era continue to resonate in our world.